So today we're going to learn how to hook up the flat plate boundary layer to the wind tunnel. So the first thing you'll need is the boundary layer unit itself, shown here. And you also need this little blank hole cover for where the airfoils went in from the pressure distribution setup. So first thing we're going to do is, you notice that there's a hole right here. So you're going to take that blank sheet and you're going to stick that in there and then rotate it and tighten the screws down. That way you don't have any air leaking out here. Then you're going to remove the bottom by pulling out and then pulling up like so on the base. Then doing the same thing on the opposite side and removing it. Now you're going to set the flat plate pointed part, the blade part of the flat plate pointing to the right, and you're going to go ahead and make sure all the tubes fit in. Line up the plastic into the part for the clamps. Push the clamps below it and then push back down, and do that for all of them. And then you will notice I can open this and take this out, so I can move this part forward and backwards. And this part is put on by magnetics, so it'll stay in place. Now this far left one here that you see, this is a static probe. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different stagnation probes at different heights, and you can see that each of them are at different heights to measure the velocity distribution in the boundary layer. So what you're going to do is you point this into the flow and position it where you'd like. I can take the top off to make it easier to see what I'm doing. You take the top off the same way you take the bottom off. So the first tube is this tube right here, and it's the first tube here on the bottom. There's pressure taps on the bottom, so starting with this first one's this static tube. Then you got the first stagnation tube, the second stagnation tube, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. So you got 9 ports in the bottom. Now you notice on the bottom here, you have pressure taps for these 9 different tubings. The first tube that on this closest to you corresponds to this first pressure port there, and so on and so forth. So this last pressure port is the very last tube back here, and that is the highest tube for stagnation. So keep in mind this first port is static, and the rest of these are stagnation at different heights, with this one being the lowest and this one being the highest. So you can find the velocity distribution within the boundary layer. Now keep in mind you can move this forward and backwards, so you can find the velocity distribution of the boundary layer in different locations. So you can place it wherever you like. So you can start at like the very tip of it and move your way back to find the distribution of the velocity as you move along the plate and get in different plate Reynolds numbers. And then you read them out by connecting to the bottom tabs here. The first way to integrate with this is using the manometer that we use for the pressure distribution of the airfoil, and you can make one your static port and just connect them all the way through. So 2 can be the first stagnation, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 can be all the other different stagnation ports, and then you can, based off this difference in pressure, you can find out what the pressure is for static based on compared to the ambient from 10 by reading the pressure in the manometer, and then you can find the pressure difference between the manometer pressure and the total pressure in the other tubes, other pitot tubes. And that way you can find the velocity distribution inside the boundary layer. Now, when you're running this, make sure you have the unit set up with the stagnation tubes pointing into the flow. You have your side blank unit put in so that you have no leaks. And then you have your top put in so that you have no leaks as well. And then you run it. Now the second method to using this pressure distribution unit, to use the boundary layer unit, is to use the digital pressure distribution unit with this cable and these 9, and you can hook them up in here and then connect this to the digital pressure manometer, and you can use it that way. Once you're done, you're going to go ahead and release the bottom plate like you did putting it in. You're going to put this unit back in the cabinet, replace it with the bottom nothing on it plate, so the next person that comes and uses it has the original unit bottom in there so that it's all ready to go in case they're not using it. And whenever you're not using some equipment such as the tubing for the pressure transducer, digital pressure transducer, please put it away in the black cabinet. So this goes in the bottom drawer. The digital pressure transducer pipe tubing goes in the bottom drawer as well inside the bin. This goes in the front, and that is how you use the boundary layer plate.